what do you think makes a meaningful career?
What is the difference? Why you prefer coaching over mentoring? How do we distinguish ourselves from the pack? If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. You know?
And oftentimes our hands have to get dirty. What could be the best outcome for this situation? I'm Michael.
I'm Regine.
And this is Gears in Motion. Let's go back maybe a little bit to say you have a new mentee, say you have someone that's new to the field and they've majored in engineering, they've majored in a STEM field, and they're now saying, well, how do I figure out what that technical specialty is? Do they just try it out? I know you talked a little bit about joining other communities outside of work to get some exposure as well. Like, what would you advise someone who says, hey, I am in the STEM field, I'm in science, I'm in technology, I'm in engineering, I'm in math, and I am trying to figure out what is that technical specialty that I want to build and hone my craft in? What would you say to them?
Okay, a couple of things I said. Sometimes it's confusing. It's hard to find out really until later in life. However, I think that when I started working at the DOT, that was my first job. They had a program which was called the EDP, Engineering Development Program, where they actually rotated you throughout all the different areas of the department before you selected where you wanted to work permanently. I did not have a chance to go to that program. They hired me because they had a vacancy in bridge design, and so I went there. However, I worked with my supervisor, so he would allow me to go for other, I worked with him. So, and he actually, that's how I ended up in construction for about 6-7 months. And that's actually how I went to the mega project development section, because I was going, but while I was there, they liked the work I was doing so much. And so they offered me I applied for a position that was open and I worked it with my boss. And then I ended up going there. And that's where I continued, to work.
That's excellent. I did not realize, I think you brought up something really interesting about the engineering development program. I did that for Virginia Department of Transportation. That's how I got my start after I was an intern. And like you, previously as an intern even, I had coordinated with my manager to say, hey, I think I'd like to try this. I'd like to support these guys. Would you mind if I went and helped them out for a week? And I think that's really bold. And I think it's really the right move in a lot of cases to kind of be able to take your current experience and broaden it, and then be able to come back and say, hey, I like this. I'm kind of interested in this. I've spent some time here, and you have an understanding of what's out there. But that's excellent. Oh, that's great. And I'm sure, you'll probably look back and say that was super helpful, super kind. And it was good that you had the relationship with your manager to be able to do that. And to be able to initiate that conversation. Because I think sometimes you get, hey, I'm a bridge engineer. Hey, I am a tolling guy. Hey, I am a whatever. And you don't think like, hey, I might have some skill sets. I might have some gifting, some ability outside of this and some interest to do something different. And it's not that you're saying, you're saying, hey, I want to still be in this group and do something else. But hey, I want to contribute and I want to see where I might be able to maximize my contribution. So that's good. That's good.
Thank you.
That's really good.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you mentioned another.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You mentioned internship. That's another great way to figure out what exactly you want to do after you graduate. Because if you in the summertime, spend time working for an engineering company, a transport, or a local or an agency, or a public agency, and have a chance to see how that gives you an idea when you leave college where you want. You go to private sector, public sector, environmental, civil, and where you really see yourself feeling better than other places. So let me
Agreed.
know.
I think, to further that point a little bit more about internships, I think now, I haven't said this before, but I think now would tell someone, hey, if you can, try a public agency internship, try a private industry internship. And then of course, while you're in college, see if there's a research experience that you can get that would help you kind of see what's out there. But shifting back to this whole idea of wanting to direct your path, wanting to take control of your career and what you're doing, was there an event or a moment that you can remember that shifted your thinking on that? Or was this a slow progression of, hey, I don't want to be told to do this, or I don't like this, and yet I'm doing it? Like, how did you evolve that thinking? Help me to understand, when did you shift and say, you know what, I'm taking control of my career, doggone it, and I'm going to start making a path forward myself and not waiting for others to offer me opportunities?
Yes. I also want to caution, it's not always that easy, right? Because sometimes it's slow progression, and sometimes there is a choice that comes to you. You have to make a decision right away. And also for a woman, like, I was married, I had children. Sometimes career, very often takes a second, right?
Yeah.
It goes in the background too because of obligations, kids, etc., and all of that. So it's sometimes good in fits, and sometimes you choose. When I went over to project development and liked it better, I did make a choice not to return to bridge. I felt actually that it was very constricting, to be a bridge designer. You were working from abutment to abutment, and I really felt that. So I really found my passion and my purpose working with people and using my skill to help people to do that. But sometimes it's events that happens in your life, and not necessarily good ones, that really force you to think about your trajectory and force you to think about whether or not the limited time you have on earth, are you really fulfilling yourself and while you're doing everything else for other people. And sometimes that's a combination, and it happens not just on the professional life, but sometimes it's at the intersectionality of personal development and professional development that you make those choices. I think I made that first choice when first of all, there was when I was asked to be an expat and go work in Montreal, Quebec. I think that was a choice. They've asked me, but in the end, I did choose to go. At one time I thought I didn't have too much of a choice, but I learned that, we do have choices. I could have said no. I may have had to look for something else, but when you also have to know when the opportunity is right. For somebody who is fluent in French, I do in English, and I also, not as much as in English, but for someone who's fluent in French and has the experience of large projects, I've managed, divisions and, sections of multiple people. I know that this opportunity would be like no other. And if I were to take advantage of that and not say, oh my gosh, I can't leave home, I can't leave. And it was a good time. My daughter was about 11, 12, so she could come with me. And I actually experienced living somewhere else. She wasn't the happiest preteen, I will tell you that. And my son was about to enter college, and I was married at the time. So there were a lot of considerations there. But I thought it's funny. I think that's the first time I made a decision where I put myself first. I put myself first.
I knew you had worked in Montreal, but I don't think I had known that you packed up and had your family too. That's wow.
Half of it.
Half of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. So let's shift a little bit into impact. So we've talked about vision. We've talked about how we might think about trajectory. And I think that's a good word to use, trajectory. You're going somewhere, you have a goal, you're walking in some sort of direction. In terms of impact, now in 2022, tell me, what do you think makes a meaningful career? Kind of looking back, what's your current definition of what makes a meaningful career?
I think it's what makes a meaningful life. It's looking back and see what have you done that has it. How much have you impacted others
Yeah.
in doing your job? Because the job is a tool. It's another tool, Michael. It's not the end in itself.
Yeah.
We're here for wide to accomplish something much wider than the 8 to 5 job.
All right now.
Something higher, right?
Yeah.
Than that.
Amen.
So how do we use that job as a tool to impact and benefit others? Or impact them in a positive way. So when you look back and you look at, this is what I have, the things that I have done, how the people I have helped. And I had told myself, because when I started, there were not too many looking like me who took an active interest necessarily, that I would always have an open door policy and make sure that I help others. And I am just so, I look back and I think I have, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think I have. And that's really tells me whether or not my career is meaningful.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. What was there someone, or let me say not what, who was there someone that modeled that open door policy well? I agree with you. I think there are some men and women that I've looked at that have been selfless with their time, which is the most valuable resource, or most valuable commodity that we had. And they've made meaningful impacts on my life. They made meaningful impacts on other folks' lives. But was there someone that, you don't have to give me the name, but was there someone that you can think back to that was good at making that sort of impact and prioritizing that?
I think it is my parents. I should give credit to my parents.
Yeah.
My father taught me a lot about leadership, hard work, excellence. Don't come to him with any half-baked, make sure you you know what you do, you understand, and you can express what you want and articulate, the work that you are to do. It put us to work, like I said, very early. And it taught us that. But I've also seen my father be the person who started a Rotary Club chapter in my hometown in Haiti, right? Yeah. I've seen him study that and doing scholarship. And I always say I learned a lot of that from my dad, but I learned a lot of compassion and empathy from my mother.
Yeah.
My mother always made sure we understand toward the impact, on others.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And I think maybe sometimes we wired when we come on earth, we wired a certain way. I think, because very often I tell people, I don't know if I can take that much credit for what I do when it comes to helping others or being impactful to others, because I think I'm wired that way.
Yeah.
To me, nothing is worth it if it doesn't, it's not legacy building. It's not really helping someone else. And I just had someone write, because we were doing performance at my office, and someone said, they were talking about me and they had asked for him to provide his opinion of not just performance, but my abilities. And he says, no one that I know can speak to or mentor other people, and especially women, like Regine. Yeah, she has a knack for it, but it's out of a sincere want to actually do that. And not because I expect, but because I also know that nothing is more demoralizing and depressing than spending 8 hours to 10 hours in an office when you're not happy with what you are doing. And it's very often that lack of happiness comes from not having an advocate, a mentor, not feeling relevant, not feeling like you are accomplishing something of value, and not being valued yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I echo that. I think I remember the first time I met you in person at in downtown DC, and I immediately felt that warmth. I immediately felt valued. I immediately felt welcomed. And I think, as much as I think it's good to go out and try to find your own mentors, I think mentors as well either give off or don't give off a certain type of energy that makes people gravitate towards them or makes people repelled. And I think definitely attracted in that way. Regine, you're a beautiful woman outside, but you're a beautiful person inside too. And I think that's important to recognize, because I think when you are out just doing your job, out just being excellent, out just doing whatever you're doing, people pick up on that. People can sense that. People can see that. And I think that's what helps make a career meaningful. Like you said, it's impacting others, but I think it's also the exchanges, the interactions you have with other people, the small ones just as well as the big ones. And I think you have to be thoughtful about that. And I think you want to be thoughtful about that.
You want to be intentional about how you treat others, and it should matter where they are on the ladder of success, on what life and society considers success, right?
Yeah.
So
for sure.
This is Regine.
This is Michael.
Until next time.